I'm Brad Linder with Download Squad, and I'm here with Kevin Toffel from JK on the Run, one of the first people in the world to spend some time with the T-Mobile G1.
With Google.
Yes, with Google, which is pretty much the first phone that's going to be commercially available running the Google Android operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think?
Well, I think that the story is not the hardware, and the story is not going to be finished for at least 6 months, because the way I see it, this is a very usable phone, browser, media player, etc. But we're going to have to wait and see what developers bring to the table. That's going to take some time, because right out of the box, isn't it? I mean, I can go to the Android market, you're not going to see all that much there. You know, we can certainly take a look. You know, here, applications, I don't know, productivity. It's probably not a hot topic, but, you know, there's 4. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of common from what I've been looking at. There's 4, 5, 6 applications in there. So it's just going to take some time. It's going to take some time. You know, I did grab Pac-Man because, you know, that was a must. But so I think that's going to be the story. Will developers embrace this platform, this open source platform, and will they, you know, really bring a vast array of applications to the table? So we'll have to see.
Now, in terms of the built-in apps, or even just the interface, like I see you sliding around here,
Yep.
one of the things I noticed in your first video, you've sort of got a 3-screen device. This is a kind of very Linuxy model of you know, using multiple desktops, right?
It is. It's a smart way to use more screen than you have. You know, you've got really 3 screens, as you said, 1, 2, and 3, that you can, you know, load up with applications and such. You also have your program menu here, and you can just scroll as you keep adding more and more. You can do that. So again, good use of space, virtual space down below. You also have, and I love this, I call it the window blind of information, where I can just pull that down and it tells me notifications of new emails, new IMs, and so on. And tapping that will take me right to Gmail. And there we go.
What we're looking at here looks kind of like your typical desktop environment, where you've got icons that you can place where you want to, or you bring up something that looks a lot like the Apple iPhone interface here. It's kind of a hybrid mode. You know, it's not a start menu, it's not a dock, it's kind of a desktop and an application launcher. Does this make it easier or harder to use than some other devices that you've tried?
I think I would have to say, and I've only had a few days with this device because I did just get it, my initial answer to your question is probably a little bit easier, because it's very customizable. You know, I just added the dialer app, for example, but here I can, you know, just drag it down to my little garbage can. Now it's gone. So I can customize this up the yin-yang. Whereas, you know, I've used a lot of Windows mobile devices over the past several years, and you can certainly customize those as well, but I don't see that you can do it in a rich way like you can do here.
Okay. And if you don't want to customize your desktop, you can always just sort of hit the little program button and there it is.
Absolutely.
So they're not there as quickly as the iPhone apps, but you can pick the 5, 10 things that you always want to use and make sure they're available.
Absolutely, like you do on your desktop with shortcuts, you know. And I know some people don't use shortcuts at all on desktops, but if you do, that whole paradigm, it fits in real nicely right here. You just add your shortcuts and you're good to go.
Okay. Now, as for the software that comes with it, obviously tight integration with Google services. You've got your Gmail, you've got Google Calendar. How's that stuff work for you?
It works really well, and I'm a heavy Google Apps user. In fact, we use it at work. So this is my work Gmail. I can go into IM right now, and you know, so I can go boom. The one thing I'm not a fan of is to type any text. You must do this, because you must use this hardware keyboard. So I'm kind of hoping somebody comes out with a third-party application that lets me do an on-screen keyboard at some point. But the apps themselves work really, really well. Probably the best implementation of the Google apps on a mobile device I've ever seen. And I think you'd expect that because of that. So.
Right. And then as for the third-party applications, you can go to the App Store. There's these applications that exist right now. Not a huge selection.
Correct.
What about the quality and, I mean, consistency of quality of these apps?
For one thing that Google is doing differently is they're not having this massive approval process that we see in the Apple iTunes Store. And that may lead to more, I hate to say this, but I'm going to call it junkware. Right now, I don't see that. Right now, I see high-quality applications, so it seems like they've partnered with, or, you know, given that SDK out early to development shops that are going to put out a high quality app like iScoot. iScoot has been around for a while. It's a great way to use Skype on a phone, without actually having Skype. Works great.
What's the coolest thing, when you now that you can show people about this, like if you're going to show somebody who wasn't a big geek,
Sure.
Look at my new phone, it works with Google. Like, what would you show them?
I think probably the neatest thing is the GPS and that compass view when you have Street View. And unfortunately, in this area, we don't have Street View, so I'm not going to be able to show it right now. But the integration there is nice to see. It seems to be much more responsive. This phone does not seem to get as bogged down when you're running multiple apps as I've seen other devices. That may be the platform, that may be the processor that's used, it may be a combination of things.
What do you wish it would do that it doesn't do right now?
I honestly, and I know this is going to be a nitpick, but I want to be able to enter text in portrait mode right on the screen. Yeah, it's rather irksome to have to every single time do that.
In terms of who you think it's going to be good for, obviously Google users, does it have a future in enterprise at all, or is this really a consumer-oriented phone?
I'm going to go with consumer-oriented because Exchange, Microsoft Exchange, is so heavily embedded into the enterprise these days, and this has no Exchange support. I don't foresee it getting Exchange support, but that's just a guess. The amount and breadth of applications that we see in 6 months are going to tell us, I think, how much of a consumer focus this is going to have. We'll have to see. I've heard from several developers who have applications out for iPhone or Windows Mobile and say, and we're going to have a version for Android. I'm hearing that more often than not, so I suspect, yes, it's not going to be a major transition for people. And based on the numbers that we're hearing of pre-sales on this, there's obviously a demand for the phone, so therefore you'd hope there's a big market for the apps. There is an SD card, a micro SD card slot, so you can pull over, DRM-free music over to this and play. But yeah, you have the same type of functionality here that you have with the iTunes Store. So you can preview. And then obviously I could buy. I won't because I already own this album. But so there's that integration, and it works very similar to the iTunes experience.
How's the media player overall?
There is no video player. There is strictly an audio player, which is kind of bare bones, but obviously works. In the marketplace, I believe there's already a video player. I have not actually used it, but I saw somebody else that has, and it looks pretty decent. You also have the YouTube automatically built in here, the native YouTube app, because there is no Flash support in the browser. Again, very similar to the iPhones. I like the tap and hold where you can actually view more information, view details, add to favorites, share comments. Sharing is all done typically through your Gmail. So again, that integration with Google, But it's not bad. So what do we have? We have the third debate, full video of it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we don't have time for the full video, but at least you can get an idea of what it looks like once it loads.
Does it typically take a little while to load?
It depends. I'm on Wi-Fi right now, so it shouldn't be too bad. But that looks pretty decent to me. Yeah, I mean, it's typical of a Mozilla browser. One thing I'm not a fan of, there's this back and forth between the screen and the hardware buttons, So if I want to go to a URL, I actually have to hit the hardware menu button and then say, go to URL, as opposed to typing in, just tapping and typing. And here, I can type here, sorry. But the menu button, you're back and forth between hardware and screen quite often, and that's a different experience for me as an iPhone user. Not saying it's a terrible experience, but it's one that I'm not used to. So, but you have the same, the scrolling. Again, we're used to the pinching to expand, contract. Here you have to do it through here, and I don't find it quite as intuitive in terms of the flow, the text flow, and the resizing. It does work. And there's also a view where, there we go, where you can kind of pan around and then say, all right, show me that. It kind of zooms it back in. I don't find it to be an optimal browser yet. I think there's room for improvement here, but it's not bad. It's not bad.
Is there anything else that you think Download Squad readers would like to know?
I mean, I think a lot of people are going to compare this to the iPhone. I'm not sure that's the best comparison. I think there are other platforms this competes well against, And again, I'll say it's a 1.0 device and operating system. A lot of potential here. We need to see how it shakes out, though.
Kevin Topol, JK on the Run, with Brad Linder from Download Squad. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.